Hello there, welcome back to the vlog, and today we are talking ultra marathons. Specifically, the best ones in the Mountain West that you've probably never heard of.
Check the mirror, see the reflection. Ain't nobody quite like me.
Now, if you know anything about ultra running, you've probably heard of the biggest and baddest stages in the sport. We're talking Western States, the Hardrock 100, and the Leadville 100. Now, these races are incredibly competitive and extremely difficult to get into. Now, there's a reason they're incredible. They are iconic, they're historic, and the courses themselves are beautiful. But what if I told you that there are lesser known, arguably more beautiful, and equally rewarding races that you could be doing instead? Let me introduce you to some of the hidden gems of the ultra running world. These races will take you deep into the wild landscapes of the Mountain West. From Idaho's remote peaks to Colorado's rugged alpine terrain, whether you're into grueling climbs, high altitude suffering, or just running in places that most people have never even heard of, this list has something for you. Now, first up on this list is the Standhope 100. The Standhope 100 takes place in Idaho's Pioneer Mountains. And this race is about as remote as it gets. It is a 100-mile race with 22,000 feet of elevation gain and has multiple sections over 10,000 feet. This year, it's going to be run in late July, and in this race, you can expect to see alpine ridges, pristine glacial lakes, and areas of Idaho that few people really ever get to see. The cutoff for this race is 36 hours. The average finisher is somewhere between 30 and 33 hours, and the course record is just over 24 hours. And from what I could see, it is a loop course that starts in Ketchum, Idaho, and it looks absolutely incredible and beautiful. A race that I think would be a bucket list race for anybody that loves remote wilderness and technical single track trails. Now, race number 2, I put out a poll on my Instagram story yesterday for suggestions, and this was the #1 recommended race. It is the Crazy Mountain 100 in the Crazy Mountains of Montana. Let me tell you, from what I can see, the name fits. This race is about as wild as it gets. 24,000 feet of elevation gain, and it is also held in July. And it has capped its race at 200 participants this year, and what it says is it does that to minimize the environmental impact on the area, which I think is amazing. Now, as I look at pictures from this race, I honestly don't think that there is a more visually stunning course that I have seen in a long time. This course looks like it would be a surreal experience to spend 30 plus hours wandering around in these mountains. The cutoff is 36 hours, but do not be fooled. Most finishers are barely making it in time, with the average finisher coming in between 32 and 35 hours. But what I could see, the aid stations are spread out. There are only 9 aid stations on the course, with a lot of 10-mile gaps between aid stations, so you got to be prepared to be out in these mountains by yourself for a significant amount of time. Now, this race debuted only in 2021, and it's still building its reputation. The course looks incredible. Next up, we have the San Juan Solstice, and this could be one of Colorado's best kept secrets, but it's been around since 1995. Amazing high alpine 50-mile run through the San Juan starts in Lake City, Colorado, and goes through one big 50-mile loop. You could call it like a mini Hardrock. You are going to get up over 13,000 feet multiple times, and this race entry starts on January 15th in just about 7 days. So it is limited, there is a wait list, but this is one that you can still get into, and it does sell out quickly. From what I can see here, it looks like the cutoff time is 16 hours. This race is a must do. I've heard from so many people in the Colorado trail running scene that it was their favorite race they've ever done, and it is 100% on my bucket list. Next up, this race is no stranger to the trail and ultra running scene, as it's one of the oldest 100 milers in the country, the Wasatch 100. I am lucky enough to have this race literally in my backyard. I could be at the trailhead of this race in less than 10 minutes from my front door. It is a point-to-point race from Kaysville, Utah to Midway, Utah, and goes through the Wasatch Mountains. It's also got a 36-hour cutoff and goes through some of the most beautiful areas in the Wasatch Mountains, like the Brighton Lake Sloop area, the Albion Basin, Mill Creek Canyon, and a lot of other iconic areas in the Salt Lake trail running scene. Now, the reason why I put this on the list is because, yes, this is a lottery race, but there are 300 slots and about 650 lottery applicants. So you've got about a 50% chance of getting into this race if you can get your name in the lottery. It is not a hard race to get into. It is iconic, it's historic, and one of the best ultramarathons, in my opinion, in the state of Utah. My name's actually in the lottery for it this year, and I really hope I get in. Next up, we've got the Bighorn Mountain Races. We're talking the Bighorn 100 and the Bighorn 50. Now, I had the opportunity to actually go to the Bighorn 100s to watch my friend Tara Warren as she took on the Rocky Mountain Slam this past summer, and I was blown away by the Bighorns. These mountains are big, they're beautiful, lush and green, and this race, because it does take place in early June, is wet. Now, I'm talking mud up to your mid-calf wet. Your feet will get trashed in this race. You're probably gonna have a dang good time doing it. It is a out and back race. We start in the town of Dayton, Wyoming. You follow this little road and you go all the way up to this turnaround point at the very top of the Bighorns. They call it Jaws. You get there, turn around, you come back. Now this one, of all of the races that I've mentioned so far, has the least amount of elevation gain at only 18,000 feet and has a generous 34-hour cutoff. Now most people are gonna finish this race in 28 to 30 hours. But I would say that this race definitely has what I would say is a core ultra running vibe. We're talking finish line in a park with food trucks, kids playing, blankets out, people throwing footballs. It's a vibe, it's a good time, right by the river, and one that I probably wouldn't have wanted to do, but after being there in person and actually seeing how beautiful the course is and just what a great vibe and community this race has, made me want to do this race. It is on my bucket list for sure, and one that I would recommend to anybody that's looking for an early season 100-mile race. Or 50 mile, because they do have a 50 mile option as well. Now, this race has got to be the biggest, baddest, most challenging ultra marathon in the country. We're talking the Ouray 100. This is like Hardrock's big brother. 42,000 feet of climbing and a 52-hour cutoff. We're talking over 2 days in the mountains. Now in this race, you are just doing little out and backs from Ouray and going up and down some of the biggest mountains in Colorado and in the San Juans. It's crazy and looks like it would be a spiritual, psychological, and physical journey, like something that would challenge you at every single level of the human experience. Now, I thought it was funny. I was just looking at it on Ultra Sign Up, and they have a clause in here that says no whining. And they say it's specifically as tough as they come, but still doable. And one of the rules that they have is no whining. I just think that's funny. It's like, you know what you're getting into in this race, and to complain about the thing you signed up for, it's kind of silly. Another cool thing that they do at this race is they're going to laser cut the podium awards from recycled traffic cones. They do some cool things like that, but they're not just going to give out these awards to the podium finishers. They're also going to give an award to the DFL runner. If you know, you know. Next on the list is the only race that I've ever DNF'd, and that is the Tushers Mountain Runs. Now, they have a lot of distances that they offer at these runs, and it is in one of the most beautiful mountain ranges that I have ever seen in my life. And it's the Tushers are located just outside of Beaver, Utah. It's the third highest mountain range in the state, and it goes up and over 12,000 feet, iconically at Delano Peak, which is early in the race for whatever distance you're doing. This race is intense, has a 70K distance and a 100K distance, and people will say that the 70K race is like 100K and the 100K race is like a 100-miler. I would agree. Now, aid stations here are spaced out about every 8 to 10 miles and are generous. This is put on by Ultrarunning, who I think is the best in the game. When it comes to aid station fare, they have everything and spare no expense in making sure that the aid stations take care of their runners. Tushers has been running since 2015, and it has a very low-key family style vibe, and I think Arvipa has done a fantastic job at preserving what this race had when it was founded by the late Matt Gunn. And I would say that this is probably one of the toughest and most spectacular mountain races in North America, and I would absolutely add it to your bucket list. If you haven't heard of it, you have now, and you should definitely check it out. So there you have it, the best ultramarathons that you've probably never heard of, or maybe you have. I would just call them the underrated ultramarathons that you should have heard of if you haven't already. Now, all of these races, except for two, you could sign up for today on January 7th, 2025. Outside of the Wasatch 100 and the Crazy Mountain 100, the rest, you could sign up for them today if you wanted to, which is why I think they're so amazing. They're accessible and doable for anybody that is ready to test their fitness in the mountains. Now, these races might not have the hype of Western States or Hardrock, but they've got something that I think is even better, which is the true spirit and core feeling and community of ultra running. They've got raw adventure, stunning scenery, and a community of mostly local runners that share your love for trail running. They're there because they love it. Now I want to know, which one of these races would you run? Or is there one that I missed? Is there another great Mountain West ultramarathon that didn't make this list? If there is, drop it below, drop the links, and let me check it out. I might make a part 2, who knows? Might make an East Coast edition, who knows? Hit the link and subscribe. Again, thank you so much for watching these videos. I love making them. This is day 7. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.